Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's WiCyS webinar. Today we have Bernice here with us from Cisco presenting on the topic of how to secure your mobile device. Before we get started, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to the WiCyS organization for those of you who are not familiar with us. We often go by our acronym WiCyS, as in We Sisters, because that's exactly what we are. We are a global cyber sisterhood. We are a 501c3 with over 5,800 members in 70 countries. And we are the premier organization with a global reach dedicated to bringing together women in cyber. Our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. All of our programs and initiatives are made possible by our supporting strategic partners, such as Cisco. We have our professional affiliates, student chapters, volunteer committees, mentor-mentee program, Job Work Plus Plus, member forum, and so much more. You can view our training programs and initiatives on our website at WiCyS.org to learn about more ways to get involved within the WiCyS community. And a special thanks to our strategic partners. We owe all of our wonderful initiatives to our partners. Our tier one partners being AWS, Battelle, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute, Cisco, who's bringing us our cybersecurity awareness webinar today, Fortinet, Google, Intel, Lockheed Martin, Meta, Microsoft, Optum, Cyndia National Labs, and SentinelOne. And just a reminder to ask questions, you can put them in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end. We have a Q&A session scheduled for the end. And ask away anything that comes to mind, please put it in the chat. We have the expert here with us today and they look forward to hearing from you in the audience. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the WiCyS newsletter, be sure to do so at WiCyS.org, and you'll stay up to date with all of our upcoming WiCyS events, additional Cybersecurity Awareness Month webinars, and more. So with all that, I am going to turn it over to Bernice to introduce herself and get started with the webinar today. Bernice, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you also for the WiCyS invitation to be here today. I'm really happy to be joining you and share a bit about what we have been learning through this cybersecurity path. I am Bernice Guerra. I am based in Mexico, so as I was talking before the starting session with Morgan, sorry if I get out some kind of Spanglish in a moment when I miss some kind of words, but I will try to do my best in the English language. I have been working at Cisco for around almost 4 years. Actually, I am a consulting engineer at a really new brand acquired by Cisco called ThousandEyes. ThousandEyes is a network monitoring tool, really intelligent. And before that, because maybe you are like asking like, okay, you are working in a networking monitoring tool, but what about security? I started my career at Cisco at the firewall team in the support center. So I have been there for around 3 years, supporting and giving support to all our customers at the firewall perspective and the firewall technology. Apart of that, I am really passionate about cybersecurity. I am part of the Cisco Women in Cybersecurity Network. That is a really great community here in Cisco that we have. So anyone who is interested in cybersecurity, no matter if you work in a cybersecurity area or not, just you need to be interested and curious about that. And all of us are part of this community, no matter if you're women or men. All of us are involved here. I love to say that for cybersecurity, there's a bridge, but it's not just a talent bridge. It's also, well, it's not a gender bridge or a gender gap. It's more a talent gap. So we need to fill it. And that's why I really love these kind of sessions. And in October, that is the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's really important to make like more prioritization in what we are doing today, but I would like to invite you to don't just do it during this month. You need to do it every day of your days, because even with the pandemic, all of us has been migrated to a digital world. You know, maybe your mom, your grandma, the people that was refused to join a digital world after the pandemic realized that they need to do it if they don't want to lose the contact with their dear ones and the people around there. So This is even more important because everyone has migrated to a digital world, not just talking personally, also talking about the business, the companies. When we need to isolate in our homes, the companies and the business has to build an infrastructure to allow their users to become remote, and that has make us convert to mobile users and mobile workers, students, and that comes to the topic of this session that I am bringing to you about mobile devices. But the most important thing is how to secure them, because now that we are all migrating into these mobile devices and the digital world, as anything in the technology and in the evolution, we love to say in the industry that when you develop a product or a solution or an application, you don't have to develop first the application or the solution and after that create a security strategy. Or you don't need to create a security strategy without know how will be your product. It doesn't come one first and another one. You need to develop both at the same time. So by that way, you will get the better results. If you develop your application, your solution, or your product, and after that you start thinking about the security strategy, you have the risk to be vulnerable during this time while you develop your security methods. And if you start thinking about a security strategy in general without a focus, you will not be sure of what you want to be securing, or which kind of data or which kind of prioritization you need to be securing through this plan. So for that reason, it's really important to to understand what we are doing with our mobile devices. And for this, after this brief introduction of what we were talking about, what is the main thing here, I think you skip watching my window. Yeah, I think it's that. I will talk about you. Let me change my share screen here. Yeah, I think there you go. Yeah. So I want to start talking about this important thing first, about the session that we are talking today. And this one is your phone. I don't know if I'm seeing here. Give me just a sec. I think you're sure you're looking at this now. I hope that. Okay. So sorry for these technical problems. Well, taking back to the session, um, before start thinking about security measures and plan and method, you need to start thinking of the first important thing in the securing mobile devices. Let me try to share it again because this is not moving for me. Well, I will try like that way. Okay, I think that would work. Sorry, let's do it like that. Um, well, the first thing, the most important thing that you need to think of, and everyone that is in today's session, is about your phone. And what is your phone? Your phone is everything about you. It's your digital identity, your data, your reputation. I want to take you a moment to think about all the data that you have in your phone already uploaded there. uh, Take a moment to think all the things that you have there. And with that, I want to share with you a story that happened to me like a few years ago. I was running late for a doctor's appointment, so I just took my phone and get out of my home to arrive at the time of my appointment. I make it to arrive to the doctor's appointment, but once I was all ready for the payment of the revision, I realized that I didn't have my bag, neither my money, and I don't have anything else, just my phone. So at that moment, I feel like lost and like, hey, how would I survive today? How would I go back to my home? I was like kind of worried because I didn't get anything else, just my phone. But in that moment, the doctors mentioned to me that they can accept the transfer of money through the bank application, and with that I resolved this first issue. Then it was like, okay, with the bank application I already have like a wallet there, because I didn't get any breakfast or anything to eat, so I try again with the bank application and get some money without a need of a card. So I just transfer money for an ATM, and from there I get the money. So how can I do that? Because of my cell phone has already my personal information, my bank information, and I don't even need a bag or a card or something to get some money. And obviously for the um, travel back home, I just pick up my Uber application and take a taxi from there to move from the place where I was to my home. So really, the worry that I have, that I feel like kind of lost, and how will I survive that day, transfer and transform to a day that I really enjoy, and I even waste a lot of time outside because I don't need anything else, just the phone. So as you can see, all of the people nowadays has these kind of devices, these mobile devices everywhere. As I mentioned before, everyone is migrating to a digital world, and this digital world comes with a practice way to live our lives. So we are not just looking to have a workstation local where we need to work. We are also looking for more freedom and options to work remotely, or to do our studies or whatever thing, whatever we want. And that has been able through this digital world and using this kind of mobile devices. But also, a part of this magic and really benefits that we get from the technology world, we also have some security issues. And to start talking about some threats that we are suffering for our mobile devices and our phones, and all this data that we are uploading there, I want to share with you another story that is like the story from the bad end. I had a colleague in the work that went to a festival, this kind of festivals that there's a lot of people that last the whole day, and there are a lot of bands, and you need to transfer from different stages, so you are moving around, and there's a lot of people, right? You know, the crowd is big. So my colleague went to these kind of festivals on Sunday, and then comes Monday, and we were working remotely already because of the pandemic. It was starting, so for that the festival goes on, but we are already working from home. And one of our colleagues asked into the chat group that we have, like, hey, did this guy ask you for money? Because he just asked me about that, and I'm not sure if he's really needing this money. For the background, this guy was really known as a person who was always in doubts and with bank money and money issues. So it was like so popular and so common that he was asking for money. So for that kind of situation, we were like familiar. But the unfamiliar thing is that this guy that suppose it was our colleague was start asking to different colleagues to transfer money to him to a different accounts, and then start being so suspicious to us. So our manager started looking around that what was really happening. And after that, like in the afternoon of the Monday, our manager told us that we should stop talking to the person that we thought it was our colleague, because he was suffered last on Sunday a phone stole. So someone stole his phone on the festival last the day before. So as you can see, in question of minutes, you go to a festival, you are looking to enjoy the day, but after that, when you lose these kind of devices that are really important, like your phone, you lose everything. You lose your identity, you lose what you're supposed to be, because all your data is stored in these kind of devices, in your cell phone, in your mobile devices. So that's why it's really important that we understand which kind of data and which kind of life we are carrying on in these mobile devices, to understand the real importance of our security measures that we need to apply into them. So which kind of threats we are against that, or we can be risk to our mobile devices can be through that kind of threats. These threats can be web-based, app-based, network or Wi-Fi threats, and even the physical threats. So we can start talking about the general cybersecurity threats. These are the most common that you may already know, or I hope you have not suffered those yet, but uh, it can sound familiar to you, that phishing, the social engineering, the drive-by downloads, the browser flows, OS flows, data storage, identity theft, and spoofing. For example, this is another scenario that may you have not think about it, but nowadays that everything has become touchless, you don't go to a restaurant and take the menu. Most of the places, restaurants, and stores that are already out there use what it is, the QR code. So you use your cell phone to scan this QR code and access to the content, or the instructions or the menu that you are looking for. But have you started thinking about what site or where does it take this scanner, or is it real trusted site when you scan the QR code? Nowadays, fortunately, our devices already have more security methods, and for example, the iOS devices already in their camera can show the link before you take to the site, so you can ensure that it's a trusted site and not a site that is not the real one. But before that, there was a lot of phishing attacks through that kind of new methods that we are looking for to improve our lives, to make our lives easier, but that we are not aware of the security threats that can be going on behind that mask. Then we have the downloadable application threats. Those are more developed, but I want to say before that you don't need to be exposed to this kind of developed threats to lose all your information, to be in risk. Even with the social engineering, even with just a basic conversation, you can lose all the data that you have storage in your mobile devices. So for downloadable application threats, we have what it is: malware, spyware, privacy, zero-day vulnerabilities. Those comes when you download an application or some content that you may don't know the really source of that. So it can become from untrusted sources that can affect your device, and can download there not just the application but also some kind of virus. For the network and Wi-Fi security threats, there are network exploits, Wi-Fi sniffing, cross-platform attacks. This can happen when you connect to a public network, or when you start transfer some information that is personal information, that is sensitive information, through these kind of open networks that doesn't have the proper security measures, and it is open to anyone. So anyone can take advantage of the network and these connections happening over there. And of course, the physical threats, the loss and the theft, that everything starts from there. I want to put you in this situation when you are planning a party and you want to invite your friends, your family, and all your uh, people that you already know to this party in your house. You will not leave anyone to access to your party, right? You give special invitations with specific instructions, and when the party starts, you have specific security measures to allow the access to the just to the people you know, or that you are sure that it's okay to let in into your home, into your life, into your identity. So that is the same in your securing mobile devices. You need to understand and be sure that you are giving access to all this data to the right people, to the people that you trust in, to the people that you know that they need to have this information and which kind of information. So it's like the same like in the real life. You need to have these security measures to allow the access to your party and who cannot access to the party, who can have the access to this kind of information and who should not access to that information. So you need to see the securing mobile devices measures like this way, like the way to protect the gateway, like the way to protect the entry to everything. But because you can say like, hey, yeah, I have everything uploaded into the cloud, and that's okay, it's all in the cloud. But how you enter all that information into the cloud, or how you access to that information into the cloud? Of course, the gateways and the entries are your mobile devices. So for that reason, you need to start securing your mobile devices since your physical devices, since your cell phone, your iPad, your personal laptop. All of them should have security measures, and we will talk about which kind of security measures those need to have, or you need to be sure that you are enabling the proper security things and settings in each of them. For that, you need to have a full protection of data and portable devices and the network connected to the devices. It's important not just to be aware of the connect to secure networks. It's also important to have the right security measures and enable the security settings into each device that you have in your property. We can talk about business, but also we can talk about our personal life. And in our personal life, we also have a network. Our network can be composed by a laptop, a cell phone, a smartwatch, and an iPad, or maybe can be involved any other kind of mobile devices. The people who love video games can involve also their consoles and all these new gadgets that we start getting. And it is not anymore just because we are talking about the Internet of Things. It is also because we are talking about this new normality where everything is now digital, and to access this digital world, we are using this kind of personal mobile devices. So to talk about a bit of numbers, um, so far nowadays we have the 50% of the business with the PCs that are already mobile. This thing that I was talking before about all the users has been become remote, all the employees has been remote nowadays. So at least they have one mobile device per user, per customer, per employee. Also, the increase of Internet of Things in the devices, but in the new normality and in the digital world, has become more important to get these security methods implemented into any device. And the IT team and our IT measures as well must adapt this approach to the security. As I said, you need to focus each kind of security plan to each kind of device that you have. How how we will do that? Well, your security plan needs to have in consideration different locations, because we are talking about not just mobile devices, also mobile users. So we need to understand and implement a security plan into different locations with different users that use these devices in a different way. So in our case, in our personal case, we need to understand which kind of locations we are using, which kind of devices. For example, I will not make any payment transaction or send some personal data or private data from the work through a public network, because that should not be secure, and that should not be a right measure or a right action that I need to take through that network. So I need to be sure to be in a security network to transfer this kind of data. also to whom I will transfer this kind of data. But that way, I need to base in the locations and in the way that I use my mobile devices and the way that I exchange any kind of data. Because uh, returning back about which kind of data we have in our phones, we have personal information, medical information, financial information. We have everything there, but we use it in different scenarios. So we also need to understand which kind of scenarios and in which times and in which kind of networks we are transferring this information to the other side, and that the other side, the people that should receive it, is really that person that I'm thinking of. To do that as well, we talk about security like an onion layer, and I really love this model, and it is always very better comprehension when I look at the security as an onion layer, because you it will not be more secure if you add 1,000 of layers of security. Because remember that the way or the purpose of why we are doing this kind of mobility and why we are migrating everything to digital side is because we want to make our lives easier and more practice. So imagine if we add 1,000 of layers of security to our device. That device will become not so useful for us if we need to pass for a ton of security layers. That will take us a lot of time to use it, and will be like a real challenge to have this kind of device with a lot of security challenge for us. It's okay to have these layers of security to protect our data and to make even more challenging to the attackers to get access to that information, but should keep easier and simple for us and practice, and don't lose this practice that the mobile devices give us to us. So any device should have any kind of security methods, and it's not just the device. If we are talking about layers, you will start with the security layer in the outside side, in the physical side. And for that, in this case, it will be for endpoint security. Some of the security methods that you need to apply, like as a first step, like once you buy your phone and turn on, the second step immediately that you need to implement is the security settings. So you need to enable the device auto lock feature, setting strong lock passwords. For some mobile devices, talking about endpoint security and the physical security layer, there are already kind of these black privacy screen phones. So these screens are really cool because when you add it into your cell phone, the visibility of what you are looking at your cell phone, it will be just for you directly. If someone besides you or in a side next to you is trying to look at your phone, it will not look anything. It will see a black screen, because that is what we are doing with the black screen. We are protecting the visibility from other angles, and it's just available for the person that is looking directly to the phone. Same thing can be found for laptops, for iPads. I'm not sure if there is already for from smartwatch, but be sure that if you look into any um, online store, you will find some of these black privacy screen phones. So it's really recommended to add it into your screen of your mobile device. That will give you another layer of security, and it's really basic. As you can see, you just need to add this kind of screen, like this Gorilla Glass template, but you will use it into your phone, screen privacy, and that's all. You don't need to do anything else, and with that you will be have a more security usage of your device. We also have this kind of cover cameras, so you can ensure that even if you are not using your camera, you can cover it in case anything will happen and the camera is enabled. Well, that will cover the visibility that the attacker, in this case, if we are thinking about control of the camera and take visibility and monitoring you, well, the attacker will top with the cover camera. So that will give you another layer of security and protection into your devices, talking about the physical side. um, then we have more complex or develop or security mechanisms, we are talking about virtual private networks, also ensure the Wi-Fi security and the email security. And this term sometimes sounds like more industrial or that is just for business, but actually is not a true. You can download these kind of applications like VPN, like Wi-Fi security or email security in your phone, and you can look into the phone store, Android store, App Store, and you will see a lot of applications that are free and can give you these kind of security layers in your devices. You can enable a virtual private network and navigate more secure. You can enable a Wi-Fi security detector, so you can ensure that any kind of security network, Wi-Fi security network that you're accessing has covering the right methods and standards of security into this connection. And for email security, also the part of avoid phishing or ensure that it's not regarding spam email. Maybe you don't want to block all the emails that could be possible to be spam, because sometimes there is kind of emails that are important for us but are marked as spam. So maybe you just want to have this alert or this detector, so you can think twice when you receive a suspected email, and you can verify all the content before click on there or download and any kind of virus that may you don't want in your devices. So all these kind of applications you will find in your storage in your stores for your mobile devices, and no matter if you have Android, iOS, or any kind of software system in your mobile devices, there's also always these kind of applications available make more secure your navigation into the network site. Now, other things that you need to take in consideration, that you need to take in action, is always remember to back up your data. This is a security measure that it has been for everything, and has been really important for all the operation that we have nowadays through internet and with the digital devices. You need to have always a backup of your data, so in case you maybe suffer under an attack, you can have your data, a backup of that in a security place, and you don't lose or you don't keep without all your information. Also, it's recommended to log out of sites after you make a payment, so you can close this session, you can close this connection, and remove all your financial data that you have added into the payment settings and into the payment fields to make your payment. Also, if you are not using the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, turn off. It's a great recommendation to turn off the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth when it's not in use, so you can avoid any kind of attempts of connection to your device without your knowledge, and avoid charging in public ports. I know that sometimes we are running out of battery and we have low battery, and need to call someone important, or we are just at the middle of our day and we have to survive to another half day. So when there is a time when you really need to have to charge in public port, be sure that this public port is in a safety zone, that is not weird to have a public port for charging there, because sometimes also you can find with this kind of spoofing or phishing or identity theft, because there are times that the attackers install this kind of suspicious ports that we think that are just for charging, but from the other side they already getting all your data, because at the end you are connecting a cable to your mobile device to all these port that you think is just for charging, but maybe it's doing other things. And of course, we will not have our tools or our monitoring tools or security detection threats to scan the port and do all the security measures before we charge into these public ports. But just be sure to be in a safety place that it can give you a kind of confidence and well protect your data as well before connect to these public ports. Other things for your mobile devices is a part of the backup data that you need to have to do frequently. Also, storage your encryption. So again, you're giving more layers of security to this data and to these devices into your network. So once you back up the data, now storage encryption also will protect you of in case an attacker access to this data of your backup will have another challenge to access to that backup because it's already encrypted. In case you lose your phone, in case someone stole your phone, you can have access to your phone remotely to remove all the data, so anyone can have access to this information with this kind of applications that we have in our mobile devices. Again, if that is iOS, we have the Find My Phone, and as well for Android, we have the Google Find My Phone applications. So these applications will help you to find your phone in the location where it would be, where the attacker or took your phone. But the most important thing is maybe really secure that you will not recover your phone, but at least you will be able to remove all the data that is in your phone, and at least will not give access to the theft to get this information from the device that has been installed from you. So at least by that way you will um, rescue your data and don't be afraid that anyone else has your data or can steal your identity. For more network security methods, you can do or storage your data through a cloud access security broker. And also you can be always verifying the data history retention. Try to clean your cookies and your cache frequently, every 3 6 months. So all this data, I know that sometimes it's really useful to have it there because sometimes we forget our password or how we access to a different accounts, and having these autocomplete fields already existing in our browser sessions because of the retention of the data history is really helpful, but is more secure if we try to delete this data frequently. So this kind of fingerprint that we are living into the digital world can be removed and don't be there like to more access to ourselves, to what we are today. Once we talk about how do we secure our mobile devices through these kind of mechanisms that, as you can see, some of them are really basic. You don't need to invest a lot of money into these kind of security measures. Maybe if you want to buy a cover camera or a privacy screen, you will not spend more than, I don't know, uh, $10, something like that. It's not expensive. The applications for security methods are also, most of all, are free. So you don't have to buy uh, what is supposed to be the greatest antivirus or secure software to secure your devices and your data. All of these options are, most of them, free. So as you can see, the security is not expensive and is not so complex. You just need to understand which kind of measures and settings, even settings, because in the applications and in your devices there are already the availability to enable the security methods, and we just sometimes don't go to that engine icon to enable the security settings, but there was always there. So it's just like basic like that to review our applications, to navigate into the menu for phones and go to the security settings to explore what we have available, which options do we have available, to just turn on the setting, and that's all. And if there's more security layers that we want to add into our devices and there's not available like by default by fabric into the phones, into the devices, well, we now can go to the application store and look for additional applications, or add these additional security layers in the physical side, or go more deeper into our applications and add more security security layers. But at the first point, since our mobile devices, there are already a lot of application settings for security that you can enable in just a question of minutes. So to start ending this session, I will start talking more about some tips and some use cases or real cases that we have been developing at Cisco as well. But to start with that, I want to share more numbers and how we are today through these kind of numbers. This data has come from 2 years ago, 2020. Imagine that was just when the pandemic was starting and everyone was starting to get a mobile device. Nowadays, these numbers can be duplicated, but around the 40% of the workforce in the roaming was growing by the 50% at the end of 2020. If we are talking about they were growing at the 50% at that year, currently we can start talking that the 10% of the workforce is already growing in the mobile side, in the remote users and remote workers. So that comes with us that the 56% of organizations prefer the mobile devices and are the one that can also find more challenging areas to defend. And why is that? Because now they cannot just control just a location and just in a specific building. Now they need to look for all the remote users that are everywhere and need to understand how will detect the right people and the right users that should have access to the business network and who are people that should not have access. Or even when you are the same employee but you're connecting to an untrusted device, you need to pass for a really tough procedure to enable this access through this new mobile device into the business network. So again, the mobile devices has been making our life easier. We can take our lessons, our sessions, our meetings from everywhere. But for the security perspective, talking about more into the network side, it has been become more challenging to watch and have visibility of all these connections across the world at the same time. Or maybe now you can connect to one side, not just through one work local station, now to three different mobile devices. So now it's like one person duplicating their connections, and that has been more challenging for the security side. And of course, nowadays, most of the people is working through these virtual private networks to get more security into their Wi-Fi network access. So what we are doing or what we have in Cisco, we have a lot of solutions available to make this and apply these security mechanisms. One of those that we really love and we use every day is this called Duo. That is a multi-factor authentication product. What a multi-factor authentication does is when you access to a site and enter your password, um, if you don't have the right security mechanisms, or if you leave it just as a password, believing that you don't enter the name of your dog or the name of someone of your family or your birth date or any basic password, we need to start with a strong password and create it with a lot of letters and numbers and symbols. So once you enter this password, if you want to have more authentication in your mobile devices, it's really recommended that you add this multi-factor authentication method. And what the multi-factor authentication method does is once you enter the password, it will take you not to the site that you want to access, because you need to do another step to authenticate it that are this is the real you, because sometimes the attacker can take the password that you have. It can be already guessed and have the word. But once it happened, this layer of security of the strong password or the password now will come with the second factor of authentication. In this case, what Duo does is you have an application in another device, in another mobile device. It could be your phone or wherever you want to install, but imagine that you are accessing through your laptop, And once you enter your password, it will send to your application in your phone another pop-up or another message so you can allow or deny the access to that site. You need to be sure that the code that is showing you in the site that is sending the request is the same that in the site that is in your cell phone the application. So once you are sure that it is you real trying to access, or that you know who is trying to access to that site, you can give it the permission to pass. If you don't recognize this kind of connection, then you can decline it through this application. Also, this can be done through sending you an SMS code, or even more manually, because the allow or deny buttons are like kind of automatically, so you can do it in a question of seconds, the allow or deny permission. But if you want to do it manually, or be sure that you are entering more details in your security mechanism, you can also add a code from the application into the other one and authenticate between each other. We have these kind of scenarios as well from our mobile devices, when we enable not just with the password, the security lock screen, when you also add the biometrics like your fingerprint, your face recognition, your voice recognition. So you add more things that are more difficult to replace it, or to stall it, right? And maybe it will be harder for an attacker to get your fingerprint or voice to make the voice recognition and allow to enable and get access to your mobile devices. So it is the same of what we are doing here with Duo and this multi-factor authentication. We have as well another more developed security mechanisms that has been working on since 3 years ago. This is called the Cisco Security Connector, which is a new method that is already being developed within the iOS. So it's kind of available in some iOS devices. And what this Cisco Security Connector makes is protect since the network access to the devices and also the app store. So it comes together with the network, the collaboration, and the users, and all of this ecosystem is being secured by this connector that is always in connection and communication with the security cloud that we have in Cisco. So as I was sharing before as well, our mobile devices has become also even more secure, and we sometimes just need to go there and realize the settings that we have, navigate through these kind of pages of security, and enable and understand what this kind of enablement we are doing into the applications. For example, I also just realized a few months ago that we have security methods like multi-factor authentication with the biometrics in the social networks like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. So I have not go to the security panel for a while, but once I was there looking into my phone, I think it was very popular news about the Uber data that was stolen. So I went to Uber to remove all my payment methods and my card information, and then start to look around my applications and the security settings. And I realized that we have even multi-factor authentication with biometrics into the social networks applications. So this is how we need to secure data. There is already a lot of methods and measurements and mechanisms to apply into it. Would be your devices physically, or the applications that you install into these devices and that you are using to storage data, and also for the applications or solutions that you use to storage your data, you need to also apply the right security mechanisms. So as you can see, it's not just your mobile device and the physical device, is also all the things that are inside this mobile device, all the things inside this physical device that it can call the applications, the software. Be sure to always keep updated your device with the patches and the updates that software updates that comes. I know that sometimes are noisy and that you're in the middle of the day, or you have a lot of reminders and notifications in your cell phone that you don't want to turn off your cell phone. But it's really important to install these updates and make apply these patches, because sometimes the software companies send these patches to fix or to protect from some kind of vulnerabilities or threats that have been detected. So that's why it's really important to always keep updated our devices, and try. There's an options in the software updates that you can delay or snooze these updates, and can be done while you are sleeping. So let's always try to do it and keep it updated. This is another kind of security measure, really basic, that we need to follow. And like the two main things that we need to take on here, if you want to start with another security layer in your devices, for these things that we talk about, use strong passwords, really hard to remember and really hard to guess. And it has lower cases, upper cases, numbers, symbols that you don't even know how to remember any of them. Don't be worried, because there's already a lot of applications and softwares available that are free. In this case, for example, password managers. We have this kind of Bitwarden, One Password, LastPass, that helps you to generate these hard passwords, and you don't need to remember, because this software will help you to remember into the different sites that you are using. So again, the technology is not against us. We need to use it to be helpful and as a tool, that as we are looking at that. So even when the technology evolves and the threats can evolve, also the applications that help us for our security protection also evolve, and is there. Just we need to be sure to know it and understand the purposes of each of that. So we have Bitwarden and these applications that you can use to generate these strong passwords and keep refreshing every 3 months or 6 months. And again, they enable multi-factor authentication in all your applications where possible, in the email, social networks, and other kind of applications. I also invite you to take advantage, because we have this product that I already show you, that is Cisco Duo. We have a free personal account that you can use it. You just need to access to the signup.duo.com, and you can get your free personal account, so you can use Duo and implement this multi-factor authentication in everywhere that you can apply it, so you can have more security methods to access to your information and to your sites. And um, some security recommendations for Android or iOS devices. For Android, only buy smartphones from vendors who issue patches for Android. Do not save all your passwords, even if that's really interesting to have like this Samsung account manager and you save everything there. Remember that if your phone is stolen, then you lose everything there. And imagine that you don't react immediately, you will left the person that is not you with access to your device can gain access to all the information. So try to don't save passwords in your mobile device. Better use this kind of password managers that I already shared with you. Use the two-factor authentication. Take advantage of built-in Android security features as well. That is like the same security methods for everything, for any kind of device, but well, to focus on and can vary any kind of branding. But always take advantage of the security features that are available in all your devices. Make sure your Wi-Fi network is secure, and if you're using a public Wi-Fi network, ensure and use it carefully. Don't transfer or don't exchange sensible data through these kind of public networks. Better wait when you are in a secure Wi-Fi network connected. Use the Android security app in this case, the Find My Phone, to remote wipe and remove all the data and move to factory um, reset, if in case you lose your phone, so nobody can access to your data. And back up your Android phone data and ensure that you can storage and encrypt this data in other um, applications and solutions that you are using. Ensure that the applications that you are downloading for Google Play are secure, and encrypt your devices. And for iOS, the same thing, but in this case for iOS branding. Find My Phone, enable the two-factor, set the phone to self-destruct in case you lose it, and revoke permissions to use the camera, microphone, etc., so you can control to who you will give access to this data. So with that said, I want to close and leave space for questions that you may have. I love to say, I don't know if you remember the movie of Nemo, when there's this scene that says like fish are friends and not food. It's the same with the security. I know that sometimes sounds like really risky and uses like, oh my God, then I don't want to use anymore these mobile devices because I'm vulnerable to everything. But that's not true. You need to see it not as your food, even as your friend. Security is your friend. And the way that you can make it your friend is understanding it and know the threats that you are vulnerable at, but better know the security plan and implement these features and security measures to use your devices in a really safety way, and don't care about it. It's really basic, and it's like just the first step that you need to do when you start using something, and after that you can keep using safely because you already applied the right security strategy. So remember that, and I will move for the questions that you may have. um, what are some recommended VPNs for personal use? I use some in App Store because I use it this in my iPad. It's called I don't remember the name. um, Something like, if you go to App Store and go for the virtual private network, you will find this which has a bear icon. I don't remember the name in the iOS side, but also in Cisco we have offering as well the AnyConnect virtual private network for access to anyone. Also because this new movement of remote users, so you can also try with this AnyConnect software into your personal laptop. How often should you back up your data? You should back up your data at least every 3 months, as well as the passwords every 3 months or every 6 months, or at least every year. But also you need to understand which kind of data you need to back up. You don't have to back up all the data that you have and back up the image that you get from WhatsApp and the memes and all that information that is not needed to back up. So because if you do that and you do the backup every 3 months, 6 months, or periodically, you will get a huge amount of data that you may never find something there. And what it will happen is that you will need to in this case, invest in the storage of your backup, or pay for more storage in the cloud. So just back up the data that is really important to keep safe, to storage it, and with this data will have a smaller storage, and you can back up this every 6 months at least. The recommendation is to do the backup at least every 6 months. Are mobile data networks 5G any more secure than public Wi-Fi network inside a coffee shop, or are they pretty much equivalent? Always, any kind of public network will be such equivalent, no matter if we are talking about 5G or 4G connection, Wi-Fi network. The thing is that the attacker and the threat will always realize the way to access through that connections. So even when we are evolving, we can have more security measures into the 5G network. It's true that we have more security measures implemented in the 5G network, but at the end we are keeping vulnerable and exposed to the eyes of the attacker. So always, no matter if we are talking about the most develop a network, if that is public and if that is not under our control or under our visibility, if that doesn't have the security methods that we are sure that we are applying into our own network, always navigate with caution, and be sure that just if you really need it. But if you don't need it, don't transfer any sensible data through them. Use it, but with this in mind. Which phone company has the best security? Well, I'm not sure because I will be talking from Mexico, where I am based. I don't know. I don't think that is the same phone company in United States and any other country. But what is really important to understand is no matter the phone company that we are using, is the security methods that we implement, because we cannot depend on just our phone company to apply the security methods. Um, we need to trust a bit into the phone company security measurements that they apply, but also we need to add these other security measures to don't just depend into the security methods that the phone company has. And the last one, I think, is this one. Can you talk the security of transferring person data using mobile data plan versus Wi-Fi? For example, if I am public and I need to transfer personal data, is it safer to using mobile data, or are there security issues with mobile data as well? Okay, let me read it carefully, this one. The way that we transfer the data and the threats that we may talk about is, for example, this common example about the man in the middle. Again, with the 5G network or the phone company, we can have the security methods implemented there, but there's always a risk that someone has take advantage or understand how it works and take a vulnerability out there and can be in the middle of our communication. So even if we are thinking that we are in a secure network, if we are transferring personal and sensible data, for example, if you are exchanging credit card information, bank information, medical information, I always prefer to do it. If I better make a phone call and be sure that the other person in the other side of the phone is the really person that I need to enter this data, or ensure that the site that I am entering this data has the secure lock in the browser, so I can ensure that it's secure access and the data that will be stored there will be safety. Also, no matter the network or the way that we are connected, always try to read the personal information privacy terminants, so you can understand how the companies are responsible of care your data. So because always we will be exposed to have this man in the middle that can be reading or getting the information through our connections. It will vary how our information will be transferred, because it will also depend in the network and the infrastructure of each kind of application or solution that we are using. But again, if you are transferring personal and sensible data, try to do it in a way that you ensure that the person that need to receive this data is really that person. Use the multi-factor authentication, use the encryption of the data. Again, if you can do it, try to do it through a phone call versus through a message. For example, in WhatsApp or this instant message that we have is we have this kind of temporary message, so you can send personal information, but that will be removed in question of days or hours. So that is the best way to proceed with this kind of information. I think we are getting at the end of the session. And with that said, I'm really thank you for all of you to being here today. Thank you for tuning. Sorry for the complications at the beginning. I hope this session has been useful for you. And well, you can contact me through my social networks in case you want to know more about anything that we talked during this session. And keep tuning into the YC sessions that they are delivering. Thank you so much for tuning today.